Welcome back to the MOOC course on corporate social responsibility. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course, and we will, in this module, we are going to wind up the discussion, we'll wind up the course, and we'll be ready for questions. So let's see what we have for you here. Now, in this lecture, we are going to talk about another concept that we've not discussed till now, and that is called corporate social irresponsibility. We've been talking about responsible corporate behavior. We've been deliberating on what constitutes responsible social behavior by corporate organizations. We've talked about what organizations should do, what they shouldn't do. Now, we will touch upon another area of corporate social responsibility, which is corporate social irresponsibility, which is a well documented, researched area. Now, of course, there is you'll say, then why am I including it in future of CSR? Now, CSIR, as we call it, is gaining importance as an area where more work still needs to be done, but it has been recognized over the years, and we have a lot of contributions from various researchers. So let's see what we have for you here. Corporate social irresponsibility, also abbreviated as CSI or CSIR by different researchers. I'm going to use CSIR here. So what is corporate social irresponsibility? This is from a paper by Lin, He and Mueller, published in 2013. What they did was they took a number of definitions and they summarized them, and they went through a number of takes on irresponsibility in the social arena, and then they talked about how various researchers addressed the concept of irresponsible social behavior by corporate organizations. So let's see what they say. I'll go through several definitions here, or several descriptions. The first one is the definition of irresponsible behavior. By irresponsible is mainly meant the antithesis of responsible. Irresponsibility is characterized by unethical and morally distasteful behavior. Irresponsibility is marked by short views, self-righteousness, hypocrisy, and disdain for the common good. A socially responsible, this was the description of irresponsibility by Ferry, again in Lin, He and Mueller's paper. The second definition or the second description was of socially irresponsible acts. Now, according to Armstrong, 1977, in Lin, He and Mueller, a socially irresponsible act is a decision to accept an alternative that is thought by the decision maker to be inferior to another alternative when the effects upon all parties are considered. Generally, this involves a gain by one party at the expense of the total system. So, if one party stands to gain at the expense of another party, then it is known as irresponsible behavior. You don't give equal importance to the common good. Then another take on this is corporate irresponsibility occurs when the strategic management of stakeholders does not remain responsibility neutral practice, but becomes an immoral practice based on the deception and manipulation of stakeholders. So, corporate organizations occasionally turn to manipulating and deceiving stakeholders, and the results that they get out of that manipulation and deception, even though the results may seem like they are socially responsible, or they indicate responsible behavior by the organization, it really means that they are being irresponsible because they end up harming the stakeholders. Okay, or they have harmed the stakeholders in achieving that objective. CSIR, I'm sorry, this should be CSIR. Okay, CSIR is about being reactive as opposed to proactive. This should be proactive. I'm sorry for the spelling mistake here. In addressing corporate issues and the ways and means by which they relate to the wider society. At its extreme, CSIR may entail breaking the law. So, CSIR, corporate social irresponsibility, is about being reactive. You react to situations, you don't proactively take measures, and in reacting to the corporate issues, many times irresponsible behavior comes into play. Okay. CSIR is conceptualized in terms of what stakeholders consider to be socially irresponsible behavior. If the stakeholders feel that the behavior of the organization is irresponsible, then it is termed as corporate social irresponsibility. Okay. The last definition or the last description here is social irresponsibility should be seen as an antonym of social responsibility, and as an antonym of social responsibility, social irresponsibility, while not defined per se by ethicians, might well accept the notion that it includes such ideas as showing no sense of responsibility, as being undependable, unreliable, or even untrustworthy. So, again, couple more definitions here. Another description by Pierce and Mans is that ethical behavior that shows disregard for welfare of others. So, corporate social irresponsibility constitutes ethical behavior that shows disregard for the welfare of others, that at its extreme is manifested when executives seek personal gain at the expense of employees, shareholders, and other organization stakeholders, and even society at large. CSIR is the set of corporate actions that negatively affects an identifiable social stakeholder's legitimate claims in the long run. This was given by Strike and Associates in 2006. Okay. Now, the bottom line is that corporate social irresponsibility refers to the corporate actions that result in potential disadvantages and or harm to the other actors. So, whatever they do, if it harms either the process or the intention is harmful or the end result is harmful, then it is considered socially irresponsible behavior by corporate organizations. All right, some forms of corporate social irresponsibility. CSIR or corporate social irresponsibility could be intentional or unintentional. Intentional corporate social responsibility. Now, corporations deliberately perform actions that disadvantage or harm others. For example, you bribe somebody, you issue excessive bills, inflated bills, illegal industrial waste disposal, you evade taxes. So, that would be a deliberate, intentional, action. So, you bribe someone, you evade your taxes, you dispose your industrial waste illegally, you dispose of your effluents without treating them, you release the effluents into the soil. Now, that is socially irresponsible behavior. Then, or you give people excessive bills, and especially where the recipient of the bill is either not going to check or doesn't care about the expenses and really passes on the cost to the agency that reimburses those bills. Okay. Intentional CSR is driven by the aim to achieve a higher level of profits and therefore presents a means for realizing specific objectives. So, we want to achieve a higher profit, we want to get a gain, and that in turn, an opportunity presents itself for us to a shortcut presents itself for us to achieve a higher objective or some material gain, and that is called socially irresponsible behavior. It involves corporate efforts to conceal the acts of CSIR because CSIR is intentional, you don't want to be caught. So, when you are indulging in intentional socially irresponsible behavior, you don't want people to know, because if people to know, they will question you, they will punish you, they may take you to court. So, you do everything in your capacity to hide that irresponsible behavior. Okay. Then we come to unintentional corporate social irresponsibility. What is unintentional corporate social responsibility? It refers to the potential disadvantages and or harm to others that are not inflicted deliberately by a corporation. So, it is not employed to achieve a particular objective, but has the character of an unanticipated byproduct of certain activities, and sometimes it could just be the result of a series of unfortunate events. For example, you could have natural disasters, you could have unforeseen contingencies. For example, the potentially lethal side effects of a drug only appear sometime after the drug has been tried and tested and after it has been introduced in the market or after it has been used. So, or you could have undetected problems in the raw material used for production. The supplier could be using some prohibited material to produce what you are buying from the supplier. So you don't know that the supplier has used some material that was prohibited or potentially dangerous or chemically unstable. You buy that product, and when you get it, then it starts to show its true colors. By then you have already bought it and used it. So later on in the day you realize that maybe the quality of what you bought from the supplier was not really up to the mark. So that is, that is out of your control. You have earthquakes, you have volcanic eruptions, you have a cyclone. I mean, these are very, very common natural disasters. There's an accident. So, tanker blows up, there's war. I mean, these things are beyond your control. So that is unintentional social irresponsibility. Okay. However, the responsibility of such impacts still lies with the corporation, and the corporation is expected to be vigilant and extra careful. So that is where education comes in, that's where training and awareness comes in. The organizations are then, they are advised to be vigilant, to be extra careful, and to do the best they can. And if it's unintentional, then you can't help it, but definitely the behavior of organizations should not be socially irresponsible. Okay. Now, the various, responsibility and irresponsibility lie on a continuum. You can do good, you can avoid the bad, and you can do bad. So it is a continuum. So doing good and doing bad, and then somewhere in the middle lies avoiding bad. And so you don't know, I mean, so these are some examples, and you'll see what is the difference between doing good and avoiding bad. Now, there is still a difference. Doing good, for example, would be, again, this is from that paper, this is the exact reproduction of the table they have used. Doing good, maybe a textile company expands its product range with clothes made from organic cotton. Avoiding bad would be the textile company consciously abstains from the employment of cheap but harmful production methods. So they don't employ organic cotton, maybe they are producing cotton, maybe they are doing something, but they are deliberately, they are conscious about not using harmful products, and that's where so they don't really go above and beyond the call of duty. Another example that they've given is a pharmaceutical company financially supports an aid organization. So a pharmaceutical company abstains from illegal drug studies, for example. So, or a computer manufacturer provides African schools with free personal computers. The computer manufacturer abstains from employing children in its production sites in Africa. So, I mean, you go above and beyond the call of duty and do something for the benefit of the community, or you stop doing something that is going to harm the community. So, you just stop there, you do only what is necessary, and that is avoiding the bad. Then, several other examples are given, you can read through these. Another very pertinent one is a global oil and gas company is active in the field of renewable energies, and avoiding bad would be a global oil and gas company abstains from human rights abuses. So, something like that. Okay. All right, some dimensions of corporate social irresponsibility. These were given by Wagner, Bison and Hall in 2008. Now, various dimensions are listed. How does CSIR really happen? So, and this is the areas in which you could see examples of CSIR, and we'll address them individually. Natural environment, local businesses, foreign economies, local employment, societal rules, employee benefits, employee wages, local working conditions, employee discrimination, foreign labor, sales practices, dishonesty, offensive material and pricing policies. Let's see what each of these are. Natural environment, you could be selling products whose production harms the natural environment. You could be producing extensive amounts of waste. You could be contributing substantially to environmental pollution. As far as local businesses are concerned, you could be forcing local small businesses into bankruptcy. Again, this is the allegation against the mall culture in India. The malls are coming up, so the local shops are closing down. I believe, again, I'd read somewhere, and I've heard from people who are living in Ahmedabad city in India, that malls were driven out of business because people were so concerned about protecting their small shops. So the smaller shops were more friendly, they carried a lot more than the large malls did, the variety was more, and to protect those shops, malls came and went in at least certain pockets in the city of Ahmedabad, or Ahmedabad as Gujaratis call it. So that's the local pronunciation, Ahmedabad. So but otherwise the rest of the world also knows the city as Ahmedabad, and this is in the state of Gujarat, and so this is western India. So this is something that happened. And so but when you have these large malls, you have a section on say vegetables, and you go there and you find fresh vegetables. So why would you go to your local vegetable shop, or you go to the clothing section and you find ready-made dresses made out of good quality material that you just you go in, you buy and wear those dresses. Why would you buy cloth and then go to your local tailor and get it stitched? So these big shops are really killing small businesses. So again, they need to survive too. That is one model, and it works in places where these shops are few and far between. But still, wherever possible, the balance is very difficult. It's one way of doing your business. At the same time, there is an outcome, an unintentional outcome of driving away or causing smaller businesses to shut down. A very interesting movie that talked about this issue in a little bit of detail was You've Got Mail, where a big bookshop really shuts down the working of a smaller bookstore that had been in existence for a long time. So it's not that is not the real message in the movie, but this aspect was very beautifully portrayed in the movie. That's just a side comment. So anyway, so you force local small businesses into bankruptcy, you sell goods below cost to put local competitors out of business, create a local monopolistic position for yourselves, or force local retailers into bankruptcy. Okay, foreign economies, you shift your capital overseas, and this is one very big criticism of the multinational companies, of the whole business process outsourcing industry. The jobs that could have been available to developed rich nations in the West have been transferred out of the country into developing countries, into places where the cost of labor is very low, so it becomes a win-win situation for both. So you will find that in India is it is on the verge of coming out of being of the label developing country. So it's but these business process outsourcing companies found a home in India. Now I believe a large number have moved to the Philippines as well. Why? Because the cost of labor in terms of the currency or the value of of money in the countries that outsource their business operations is very, very low. So that is why they just shift base of a part of their business to another country, and a lot of people who could have been employed in their own country are no longer employed in those businesses, and whereas in another place another opportunity is created. So this is really considered as irresponsible behavior towards their own home country. Again, it's a balance that one has to draw between what is good for the business and what is not. Selling a majority of the products built overseas, contributing to exporting without really putting all that inside because you're getting more money from overseas. Again, that is another criticism for the goods and services produced in countries where the cost of labor is not so high. And contributing significantly to the national trade deficit, buying from companies overseas instead of domestic companies. Local employment, increasing unemployment in local communities, replacing existing jobs with lower wage jobs in local communities, causing local businesses to reduce jobs in local communities, reducing their own workforce in local communities. Some societal rules, again, cheating on taxes, paying bribes, ignoring the law, breaking the law. Employee benefits, providing very limited benefits to employees, providing very limited medical insurance to employees, making healthcare coverage very expensive for employees, referring employees to healthcare provided by the state instead of providing medical insurance themselves. As far as employee wages are concerned, paying very low wages to employees, not paying employees living wages, paying employees less than the market average. This happens to a great extent in the case of organizations that employ workers from vulnerable groups, for example, migrant populations. So, populations that have migrated either from another state for want of, so if it's a drought stricken state and local people from there go to other states in search of work, and so such people could be treated like this. Or in the case of migrants from another country, or asylum seekers from other countries, people who flee their own country because of civil strife, because there's a lot of fighting going on, and they come to another country to be safe, and then they are employed by the organizations in that country, and they are not paid the living wage. Or even illegal immigrants, they leave their homes and they travel illegally across the border, and nobody wants to do it, but they are forced because of family circumstances, and they travel illegally across the border, and then they are under the threat of being handed over to the immigration services and being deported. They are employed at much lower wages. Okay. Local working conditions, having employees work in an unclean environment, having employees work in an unsafe environment. I was recently reading a piece of news about the sanitation workers, people who clean drains and all, not being given masks and gloves, and they just do it with their bare hands. And there have been incidents where such people have died because of the poisonous gases emanating from drains. So they go down and they just do things with their bare hands, and then they catch a lot of infection, and they sometimes die because they're not wearing masks. So, and they work for long hours. Your drain is blocked, a person actually goes down into the drain and cleans it out for you and wades through the muck. It's, hats off to such people. It is, to people who do this, it is unimaginable, the kind of work they do and the kind of harsh conditions they are in. So, till very recently, hard hats were not compulsory. Now, of course, hard hats are compulsory, but very few organizations, especially the smaller contractors, don't really insist on hard hats for the construction workers. Large projects, yes, people are given hard hats because there are checks and balances. But construction workers in smaller projects or smaller areas, somebody's building a house, you've got 4 or 5 daily wage laborers working for you, they are not given hard hats, and they could they could suffer injuries. So that is a provision of unsafe conditions. Or you have technicians in laboratories who are not given disposable gloves, or they take the disposable gloves and the organization then keeps one box just to show the inspection people, but they are not allowed to use them. So when you're dealing with blood, you could catch all kinds of infection. So all of these are examples of unsafe environments. Treating employees disrespectfully, abusing them, beating them, it happens in many places. Providing poor working conditions to employees, not allowing employees to take sufficient breaks. You're supposed to stand there, you're supposed to work, you don't get time off to eat, you don't get time to do your to take rest. So the international convention is that every employee, especially in physical work, should be given 15 minutes of rest after 4 hours of work. Ideally half an hour, but at least 15 minutes after every 4 hours of work. So that is many times not followed. Okay, employee discrimination, discriminating against employees based on race, gender, age, looks, personal characteristics. Foreign labor, paying extremely low wages to workers in developing countries or from vulnerable communities, for example, migrant labor from areas or illegal immigrants from areas ridden with civil strife, having workers in developing countries work extensive hours or undertake heavy workloads because they are, they're used to it. You assume that people would be used to it. Sales practices, selling customers products, either products they cannot afford. So you say, okay, take it on credit and pay us when you want, and this is the interest, and this is the interest per day. And by the time they buy it and use it, they realize, oh God, the interest, including the interest, something would have cost, the actual price of the item is so high, but you get caught in that sweet talk, and sort of you get trapped in it, and many of us don't read the fine print, and so we don't know what we are getting ourselves into. Selling consumers products that they don't really need, again, the advertising industry is responsible for this, but then we can't. It's many times we get taken in by the way something is advertised and word of mouth, and the seller will say, well, you bought it, you could have just not bought it. So, or sometimes you couple things and you say, if you want A, you will also have to buy B, and the total price is this. You can't buy one of these products independently of another, and so you're trapped into buying things, in the hope of people will say, okay, if you buy a packet, or if you buy this joint item, so you have one bottle of something and you have another bottle of something attached to it, and whether you like it or not, they're forced to buy it, and they buy it and they end up not using it. Or you say that either it's not available, or the difference is only 10 or 12 rupees, but they end up spending much more. Then things that are bad for their health. The critics also say that socially stigmatized industries, we'll talk about those. There was a lot of hue and cry about a popular fast food chain selling food that caused people to become obese, and so you can go through it, and a lot of campaigns were run, etc. So people claimed that this was not good for them. The tobacco industry suffers because of this. The brewing industry suffers because of this. They say, you're selling people alcohol, you're selling people cigarettes. So that is considered an unsafe, or things that are bad for people's health. Or if you go by the same logic, maybe selling people anything that contains too much sugar could also be bad. So again, it's a catch-22 situation. Dishonesty, making misleading claims to customers through advertising, having salespeople make false claims to customers about products, offensive material, exposing customers to provocative images through advertising, products that are offensive to some people, and products and images that are not family friendly. And pricing policies, you could have overpriced products that you sell to customers. You could be charging customers higher prices than originally advertised, or higher prices due to a monopolistic position. So if you want this is how much you need to pay for it, otherwise you can't buy it from here. So you say, okay, if I have to say, travel, say maybe 5 kilometers from here to buy something, I might as well pay a little higher here and save myself the trouble and the money I would spend on transportation to another place. So that is bad. Now, an interesting thing that I wanted to show you was the Public Eye Award, and let's see what this is. This award was constituted some years ago, and this is an award given to organizations that demonstrate the most irresponsible behavior over a period of 1 year. So, Public Eye. Okay, and this is based in about Public Eye. Let's just read this. Okay, Public Eye fights against injustices with a significant link to Switzerland. So again, so they have stories about various organizations. So what's hiding in my shoe? We met the actors of the shoe manufacturing industry, and there's the whole story here. Then various here, exclusive study dedicated to corruption risks and commodity trading, role of banks in the dirty diesel scandal. Switzerland is exporting banned pesticides to developing countries. This news is from the 10th of May 2017. Again, so they find out who is doing what, and then they give this national award. I mean, they don't give the award, they just announce, they do their research and announce the name of the corporate organization that has been socially irresponsible or most irresponsible in the past year. So this is some input about corporate social irresponsibility. I wish we had the time. I mean, you know, I know I've given you a lot of information, but I need to stop the discussion on corporate social irresponsibility here. We will continue with some more inputs on the future of CSR in the next class. Thank you very much for listening.